Hey guys, welcome back to another video. I've been a bit late when it comes to this set of news that has been released a few days ago, but today I have some time to record, so I decided to be able to do this. Anyways, we've got tons of news when it comes to Code Vein 2, so I wanted to cover all of that in this video, mostly the gameplay, because we actually got to see footage of Code Vein 2 being played, and that matters way more than any other piece of info that we can get. So, well, actually, the other piece of info that matters a ton is actually the release date, because we got the release date being on January the 30th, so basically February. Alright, so we can talk about some of the gameplay aspect, but in order to do this, I would like to start with the character customization, because that is the first thing that we see, and that's honestly one of the most important points when it comes to Code Vein in general. So the character customization, if you thought it was very robust in Code Vein 1, then in this game it is even more robust. It is crazy. With the addition of several sliders when it comes to body customization, there are sliders for the head size, the torso, the waist, the thighs, the legs, the arms. There's a lot of things. On top of that, there's way more options in terms of facial customization, things like closing an eye of your character, having sharp teeth, stuff like that. And there's also a lot more outfits in the game now. In the previous game we had like 6 to 7 outfits, and now we have somewhere around 20 total, which is crazy. In Code Vein 1, you can only remove parts of the outfits. This time around, you can do the same, but you can also add or replace some parts. For example, you can replace gloves, shoes, and even cloaks for each outfit, and even mix and match some of them with other parts of different outfits that you already have. Moving on, we can talk about the exploration, which is also another big part of Code Vein 2 now, because you're able to run around in the world, and I must say it looks very pleasant because of the inclusion of things such as the day-night cycles or even weather effects like the rain. You also have the ability to now gather resources in the world and craft items. We also have a hint of a quest log, which indicates that we will have way more side quests coming from NPCs. We also have new actions slash mechanics in the game, like jumping and crouching. Unfortunately, I don't think there's any info that we've seen yet about them being used in combat. Like, I don't know if there's, for example, a jump attack or a crouching attack like in Elden Ring. Next, we're going to talk about the UI, because that's also a very brand new thing about Code Vein 2. The UI is very different from Code Vein 1 with, for example, only 4 ability slots instead of 8. If you actually look at the bottom center of the screen, you will see a bunch of bars. One is your health bar, the yellow and blue. Then you have above it the stamina bar, and then you have the ichor. Now, when it comes to the yellow and blue health, I cannot say for sure what's going on. However, it seems like every time you're getting hit while you have that blue health bar, it has the exact same effect as Foul Blood Barrier, which is a buff in Code Vein, where you can have a barrier around your character, and as soon as that barrier gets hit, it will absorb pretty much all of the damage that you have taken, and then it will go away. But in this case, as long as you have the blue bar, it seems like that effect is still on. However, I do not see how it absorbs damage at all, unless this was a very early build and it's supposed to absorb more damage than it should. Then on the bottom left side of the screen, we will see a bunch of icons that are actually dedicated to the companion. Once again, cannot tell you exactly what they do, but there are new mechanics regarding the companion, and I'm assuming these icons are actually related to these mechanics. So we have the summon and the assimilate mechanic. The summon means that you're able to summon your AI partner, because in this game you can choose if your AI partner runs around with you or no, in a dynamic way. In Code Vein 1, you have to do this at a mistle, or if you want a bonfire, and then decide if you want a companion with you or no. In this case, you can have a companion with you, but you can summon and unsummon them basically. When you summon them, they're around, they run around with you, they attack enemies, they destroy enemies for you. Similar to Code Vein, you already know how it works. When you assimilate a companion, however, it is a new mechanic that makes it so your companion literally fades into a golden cloud or something, and then you actually see it being absorbed inside your heart that you have on your back, and then you actually get buffs from doing so depending on the companion that you pick, which means that if you do a solo run like I do, your companion is now part of your build in some way. So it actually matters who you pick to run around with, even though you don't want them to run around with you. This also matters a lot when it comes to revive, because in Code Vein you can revive your ally and it can revive you as well. Well, actually in Code Vein 2 we haven't seen the player character having the ability to revive the companion at all so far. But the way it works when you die is that your companion will immediately be unsummoned and then return to your heart, giving you back some health that way. However, you'll see the icon go on cooldown. While they are on cooldown, you no longer get the buffs that they would provide you while they are unsummoned. So you have to wait for them for the cooldown to end so that you can receive those buffs again, or even summon the companion again. So that's how it works for the companion. On the right side now, you will see your abilities, and in this case you only have 6 slots. You have the 4 slots that are dedicated to each button: square, triangle, circle, and X. But you no longer have the ones that are dedicated to the D-pad. However, you have 2 new icons that are on L1 and L2. Each of these icons belongs to a system called bequeathed formae. So the bequeathed formae are a new type of tools / items or tools or weapons that you can now use. For example, in this case we have 2 types that we see. We have a shield and then we actually have a bow. The shield is a defensive type bequeathed formae, and then the bow is an offensive type bequeathed formae. The shield takes 0 ichor in order to be used, and then the bow takes 1 ichor per shot, even if you use a charged shot. We do see another type of bequeathed formae, which is a gigantic saw blade that we see in the release date trailer. However, we have no info on that. Maybe it's going to cost 3 to 5 ichor, who knows. Okay, so next we can talk about the weapon menu and the stats. This is very interesting, but also a little bit complex because there are a few new things that we have to take in consideration. First of all, we have a brand new stat called bleed factor, and this is attached to a new mechanic called bleed. When you hit enemies in this game, you will see them covered in golden scars. This is an indicator that the enemy is actually bleeding. In the presentation, they do not really explain what this does, but they only say that you can capitalize on the bleeding by using a drain attack. I'm not sure what it does exactly. Looking at the drain attacks after an enemy has been bleeding, I haven't really noticed any difference in terms of damage or even in terms of the ichor drain. Regardless, that is something that we'll have to see when we have our hands on the game. We also have a few new types of wording here. First of all, we have the attribute burden, we have available and current formae builds, and weapon formae. So these are new wordings here that we haven't seen before. Attribute burden, if you look at the stats of your character, it says 8 in dexterity on this menu here, but then if you look at the right side of this page, you will see all the stats of the character. You see 10 in strength, 12 in dexterity, for example. And then below the dexterity you will see the number 8, and then you'll see a little bar next to it that is filled up past waypoint. So that basically is a capacity of your stat. 12 dexterity means you can only use 12 of that dexterity. In the current page they are using dual blades, or rather in this case twin blades, but they do not just require the 8 dexterity, they use 8 dexterity points, which means if you want something else in your build that uses dexterity, you have to make sure that it has only 4 dexterity or below in terms of attribute burden. Stats now have a capacity, and depending on that capacity you will be able to do something. So available and current formae builds, I have no clue what it is. Weapon formae, I'm assuming it is the weapon ability. In this game the abilities are actually not attached to your class or to your blood code. In this case they are attached to your weapon instead. I guess it is also a good time to talk about weapons. So in Code Vein 2 we have 2 new types of weapons: the twin blades and the runic blades. Twin blades are about what you expect, attacking with basically 2 blades and moving fast, really fast weapons, low damage. It's about what you expect. Runic blades on the other hand are pretty odd and a brand new type of weapon that we haven't really seen in other games. So basically runic blades are these 2 blades floating around your character, but if you look carefully they're actually being held by hands, like floating hands. it seems like you're able to throw them around so they can attack enemies from far away. But while they are attacking enemies from far away, it also seems like you have access to hand-to-hand combat. And by the way, hand-to-hand combat seems to be something that you can do by default in this game by having no weapon allocated to your weapon slots. If you look at the menu again of the weapon stats here, you will see that they have the twin blades in the weapon 1 slot, and then in the weapon 2 slot you will see that they have hands and fists. But if you actually look at the menu that was before that, you will see they have no weapons allocated to the weapon slot. So it means that if you have no weapons, you're actually able to still fight in a hand-to-hand fashion. In COVID 1 we couldn't do this. There was always a weapon that was attached to our weapon slot. So this is a brand new thing that I'm very curious to see when it comes to builds, actually, because that's a new way to fight too. Very welcome change. The next weapon that I want to talk about is the Bayonet. The Bayonet has received several changes that are quite significant. If you remember, when in Code Vein, the Bayonet would use iCore in order to shoot bullets, but it seems like in Code Vein 2 it's no longer the case. Instead, it uses actual bullets. If you look at the UI here, you'll see 5 out of 20 bullets, and once the player is out of bullets, they have to reload. The interesting part too is that it means that you can run out of bullets eventually, and you will have to eventually maybe craft or buy them somewhere in the world. Also, the shot speed when it comes to the Bayonet has become much faster. It's almost instant now. And this was one of my big criticism of Code Vein 1 when I was looking at the weapons, is that the Bayonet didn't even feel like a gun. Now it actually feels like it, and that's way cooler. Speaking of weapon, we can also talk about the blood veils. My bad, I mean the jail weapons. So in this game, blood veils do not exist. We now have things called the jail weapons. So jail weapons are your tools for drain attacks, of course, and they come in a variety of types. In this game so far, we've seen 4 types of jail weapons. We have the ogre type, the bat, the reaper, and the hounds. So hound type is making a return. However, we have not seen anything regarding the stinger type or even the ivy type from Code Vein 1. But we do know already the hound type and also the ogre type. Now the bat and the reaper types are very new, and they're also pretty interesting. The bat is actually just these giant wings that your character is able to just have out of nowhere, which is really cool in my opinion. I think they look sick. But they're also pretty odd because their drain attack is not a direct drain. Instead, you will throw a projectile at an enemy, and that projectile will actually mark the enemy with a debuff. By the way, the projectile does a very small amount of damage, and as I mentioned, it doesn't drain immediately. Instead, it causes the enemy to have a debuff that causes them to have bats, like a little cloud of bats flying around them and constantly biting them, draining iCore continuously. It's a brand new way to use a drain attack, which I find really cool, but also not necessarily that good, because it's probably not going to be very reliable when you fight gangs of enemies. For example, if you fight a boss, then it's pretty sick, but if you fight like 3 enemies at the same time, you probably want them to die as soon as possible, and you want your iCore as fast as possible as well. Next, we have the Reaper type. Unfortunately, I do not really see any particular detail that is worth talking about when it comes to the Reaper type. It just seems to be a giant scythe. There's no hint to any specific details when it comes to this type of weapon. So that's about it for the new weapon types in Code Vein 2. So we can also talk about boss fights in general. There's not really too much to say because, well, we see a boss fight and then there's a couple cuts here and there in literally every footage that we see. But it's very interesting that the first boss is a boss that actually hits you with a very scary debuff, which is Petrified. If you remember well, in Code Vein 1, the real first boss of the game is the Butterfly of Delirium. And that is by far one of the most difficult bosses in the entire game that you have to deal with at the very start of the game because of poison. But not just poison, the boss itself is quite annoying, to be honest, but also, yeah, the poison effect is really strong. So we have once again a real first boss that starts with Petrify, which is crazy to me. So yeah, that's pretty much all that I have to say. I don't think there's anything else that I've really missed, but I also would like to make another video where I will give some of my thoughts about the game, because I've definitely been in touch with what people have been saying when it comes to Code Vein 2. I've heard some complaints, some worries, some concern. Some people say that this game is way too different from the first game, or that they're disappointed that the story is taking a different direction from what we had in Code Vein 1, especially because we also do not see the cast of the first game. And to be honest with you, when it comes to something like that, I am not very concerned, because I didn't really like the story in Code Vein 1, and to me there's just nothing of value that has been lost. But it's still a topic that I would like to talk about eventually. So please, I would beg you to leave a like, subscribe. I would really like to reach at least 1,000 subs. It would be really nice. So please leave a like, subscribe, let me know what you think in the comment section below. I'll see you all in the next video. Have a good one. Peace.